Hi everyone, I'm super excited to host Nate, CEO and co-founder of Path Intelligence. Thanks a lot for being on my show.
Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
So it take us back to college days till this date. What would be your top three career highlights?
I would say college days, I started a brand called Too Easy, Too Easy E. And basically in our dorm rooms, it was me and a guy named Joshua Sims. And yeah, we just wanted to do something different. And had just gotten into the School of Architecture and Planning CAP at Ball State University. And we had shared beliefs and shared visions. And it was called, yeah, like I said, it was called Too Easy, but our principles were faith and unity. And we started a fashion show where we would take non-traditional models and train them for about 3 months. Traditional signed models would train them for 3 months, and then we would take brands that no one knew about. And so we had those brands featured in the fashion show, bring out like 500, 600 people there on campus and moved it to Indy. So that was the first highlight, first like really big wins and what a lot of people know me for back in Indianapolis. And then I would say next, when I started working at an architecture firm out of school after I got my master's in urban design, I started working for Meticulous Design and Architecture, which was an up and coming architecture firm in Indianapolis. And they had just started getting some really cool traction, some cool projects. And I was appointed to work on the architectural identity manual for the city of Abu Dhabi. Yeah, so that was incredible. Took like a year to do it start to finish, but it was really my project, excuse me. And it was a great one to work on, being that it was an international project, and I always had interest in cities and just doing international work. So that was really cool. And then lastly, I would say recently here we've run what they call the NC Idea Grant. It's a North Carolina based organization that gives grants to startups there in NC. And yeah, we won their seed grant, which is, I would say, one of the highest forms of achievement in North Carolina. So that put us on a different echelon when it comes to business. And so very excited about that and sort of the fruits that's sort of delivered for us, and excited about how our team has used that as fuel to like continue to build. So
It's amazing. Like from architecture to technology with a lot of entrepreneurial pursuits.
yeah.
Would also like to know like what I know you started VSN Group. What
Mhm.
was the seed of like starting your own company? How was it like? What are the things you learned the hard way?
So yeah, I started Vision Group um, in 2021, or sorry, in 2020. And it was obviously during COVID where things were fast but slow. It was like weird. It was a weird time. And my whole idea was that, okay, people are going to be experiencing real estate and architecture online more and in increasing amounts as the years go by. And so if I could position myself in something that I already like, I already love, at the crux of architecture and technology, maybe we can build something big. What I didn't realize was that, to build a company is not one of the easiest things in the world. So it takes a lot of like perseverance and grit, and it takes a lot of wherewithal as well, and people. One of the things that I had to really develop was the ability to build relationships with people while working with them. And a lot of people undermine this, but I believe that true wealth, especially from a company, is built on relationships. Internal relationships start to mirror external relationships. So if you have good relationships with staff and the people who are doing the work, and know their wants and needs, and they know yours, and there's a good synergy of like how we can help each other, I think that starts to build a good culture for an organization to then sort of present that same type of relationship with the clientele. And so that's one of the things that I learned the most. But I mean, entrepreneurship itself is like a self development sprint. Like at all times, you're developing yourself, you're getting better, and the better you get, the better your team gets as you coach them through, and the better your team makes you as well, as they tell you what you're missing. But it's always a pursuit, an aggressive pursuit to improve. And like I said, I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I didn't know how many sleepless nights or all nighters or whatever it is, to really achieve those goals. But it's all been so, 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 so worth it, because when you think about a big goal or a big vision, rather. There are several components, right? There are the people that are involved. There's the actual vision itself, like what can you see, like the imagination, and there's the action. There's the doing of it. You have to take the daily actions and create the habits to be able to make it happen. And some people have one of the three, but like I said, or two of the three. But to really build a solid thing, you kind of have to build up all three. And you have to start off with having all three. But as you grow, you have to learn how to build those three things.
Got it. And also, you had a YouTube channel, newsletter, your brand. So for the success of VSN Group, like what was one thing that moved the most needle in terms of getting clients, running it
Yeah.
successfully?
Definitely storytelling and being able to translate a story that you can tell, that I can tell you right now over a conversation, or that if we were sitting down like we were at a blueprint, um, that type of conversation and storytelling and like dialogue digitally, right?
Mm.
That was the turning point for us when we started being able to sort of more naturally tell our story about how we helped this client or how we built this digital twin for this high rise or something that seems super complex, like that creates a huge result, like help someone raise $100 million or, help someone sell $100 million of condos. But that's something that seems like not everybody can get up in the morning and go do that, right? So it's like, how do you break that down into a story that is digestible and not too technical? And so that's what our effort has been. From a YouTube standpoint, and I started my first YouTube channel, I believe in 23. And that was about just like getting the information out, like getting the information out from my head, um, out to the public, out to people to see if it can help them in their daily lives and in their businesses or in whatever it is. And so that was the effort. And it also helps with the personal branding aspect of things because when people see you as someone who is not just like all take, 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 they're more likely to want to work with you. And you can't imagine how many sales calls I've been on, and you realize people will look you up, and then they'll reference one of my videos and go, I really love that video that you were talking about entrepreneurship and you jumping into entrepreneurship. It really spoke to me because I have the same story. Or talking about how you're an immigrant and you came to this country and you built up and stuff like that. That resonated with me. So I realized that the business I was building, and the people that it would attract was based on what we put out there. Right. So it's like you kind of have to build that story and tell people that story, digitally for them to attract the right people to you that you really want to serve.
In your running path now, what was the like main aha moment that okay, now I want to pivot from service business to a product business?
I think when I realized where AI was going, I believe in 2023, the first time I interfaced with ChatGPT when it came out, when I was getting all the emails and the alerts and I was watching the YouTube videos, I can remember and being in my apartment, sitting in my or my apartment office and typing in something like the meaning of life or something like that into ChatGPT. And the answer it gave me was I was like, this is going to change everything. Everything. I probably spent like 3 or 4 hours on it after that night. And yeah, that definitely opened up my eyes, especially with Stable Diffusion also coming out, which Stable Diffusion is AI's ability to go out and pick all of the images that exist and put together another image based on what you ask it for. So that's how people are able to create, the monkey with the guitar in its hand, right? Or whatever it is that you want. I realized that same technology could easily put me out of business if I continued, and and at the time, Sora and like, ChatGPT and what's the other one? VO, all those like weren't as good yet. Like Creo wasn't as good, Runaway wasn't as good, but they were out there. And I knew that it's only going to get better. And so that prompted me to start looking at something bigger, like a bigger problem, right? And the problem that we've come to now is spatial intelligence, right? We've taught AI to understand how to have a conversation with us. We've taught it how to compute. We've taught it how to play games. We've taught it how to create images and videos. But AI does not yet truly understand how to move through and understand spaces like we do. And so that was sort of the hypothesis on which I built Path on. Is like, what if we can train AI to understand digital and physical spaces, understand behavior in those spaces, and use that to create sales engines, essentially. And that's just the start of it. Create sales intelligence engines that decode intent in real time and can deliver insights to whoever's on the other side of that transaction, whether it be a real estate developer or be a sales agent or a broker. Can we understand what people are doing in those virtual experiences and produce summaries and intelligence and derive understandings from those experiences. So that's where the pivot was, and yeah, we've been going ever since.
Looking back, what was the most challenging thing to build in the path journey?
The definitely the user experience, like the person actually going through a path tour. The company is unique in that there is a customer facing experience, like a buyer facing or consumer, if you will, and then there's the customer facing. So, or the developer, or whoever you put in those shoes. So there's a front end and back end. There's like, and the front end has to be used and has to be highly engaging. It has to be highly immersive. Has to be, all that stuff for us to get the data that we need and for us to get the insights that we need for the actual person I'm selling the software to. And so that presents a challenge. Basically, there's a lot of things that I do to make that experience better, whether it be talking to people, sitting down with them, watching them, use our software and just like naturally see what they do, or sending links to people and saying, "Hey, what do you think about this? How can it be better?" And that process is not a quick thing. And, typically things with AI, like it's quick. Like it's boom, you put in the input and you get an output within seconds. But that is harder because it takes time and it takes a larger test sample of people to actually to actually navigate it. So that I would say is probably the hardest.
Yeah, and I've seen the demo, the whole user experience is very like intuitive, so a
Yeah,
great job
thank you.
in building that.
Thank you, man. Still getting better, but yeah.
For a developer or realtor listening to this, like what time of the project they should involve you? What are the inputs they need from their side to try it out?
At the moment that they start thinking about pre-sales, I think it's time to engage us. The other thing that we're seeing is there are properties that are sold to a certain capacity, maybe 60, 70%, but they need to offload the rest of the units and sell them. And so at those points, it's good to also bring us in because we can also create a digital twin of the existing building and then help people to understand what it is. At that stage, it's like, how many people can you give a tour to, right? And our tool can help to enhance or increase the number, multiply the number of people that you can reach at once and have conversations with at once. And so at that point, it's always good. And then sometimes for properties that you just want to know more about what people want, right? Like for a developer, the golden nugget within our software, the diamond, is understanding what people are spending the most time looking at and what people are asking about the most. Even if it's a property that you've sold every unit, like if someone goes to it and they're asking particular questions and a ton of people go through it and they're asking the same questions, then you have something, right? You can use that data to do something with. Like, for instance, if you have a tour and you have a home theater and a wine cellar in the same home, imagine if you think that the home theater is more valuable and then you go through and see our data and understand that most people are looking at the wine cellar, asking about the wine cellar, getting excited in there, spending more time in there. That's a huge finding. That's a huge finding because people won't just tell you that in most cases. They just want both. But you see what
Mm.
people gravitate to naturally. And that's where I speak to spatial intelligence and that's understanding how people are navigating through those spaces. There's actually no other way for you to do that. So yeah, that to answer your question, those are the places where, or the times where we can be engaged.
3 years from now, where do you see path going? Like, what's that version look like?
Yeah, I see us I see a world where people will wear wearables like your glasses or mine, and you'll be able to navigate through spaces in an augmented way. And that sort of behavior will be understood by people who are building that spatial intelligence and basically us. And we'll be able to optimize those experiences for the user, the buyer. I also see a world where immersive experiences are just going to become the normal. Like my thought, my hypothesis is if I can, instead of like, if I'm interested in a property and it has a digital twin, which I believe most will at that time, why would I need to go to the website if I could just get all the information I'm looking for within the twin? So I think there will be less emphasis on landing pages, websites, etc. Also, right now we're seeing a lot of wars that are happening with the listing services and with MLSs and companies like Zillow. And I think things are going to change in terms of like how people explore properties because that's what they know they can do right now. No, it's a behavioral shift. I think that will happen because if you're looking for a home right now, the first thing you're going to do is either go to Google or you're going to go to Zillow and start messing around with the filters. But is that the best way to experience or explore properties? It's the way we know, but is it the most efficient on my time? You know, like I said, I mean, if I could just skip that process and just like be in there virtually, or and I could be at four at the same time and I'm examining things in a different four. I'm thinking about my preferences. I would rather do that every time. So that's where I see things going in the next three.
Very like AI native way of home search experience where
Mhm.
right now people still have to do like some cognitive load of photos and how they will feel and
Exactly.
experience. But if that can be translated and
Yeah.
they're actually searching, even the search could be very different. They could start
Yeah.
from an inspiration rather than like, okay,
Exactly.
words. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, you hit it right on the head. Like people have to fill in the gaps with their imagination. And that's why the purchase takes so long, right? If they didn't have to fill in the gaps and they just kind of could get the information like that, then what would happen with real estate? You know, would real estate accelerate? Would more properties be listed? Would more properties be sold? Imagine what that could possibly do to the economy.
It feels like this could be like a category defining product. Like, do you see any friction from the realtors? Like, okay, what if we are being replaced or
I think most realtors will, and this is my first time saying this publicly, but I think most realtors will be replaced by technology. I think only the highest performing realtors with experience and understanding of human psychology, marketing, sales, and understanding how to build a business will succeed.
hot take?
I know, I know, but it, I think it's true. I think a lot of people know that too. It's like most people won't say it.
Yeah, it's happening with most of the field, coding, content. Like
Yeah,
AI is getting so good that
yeah.
the best ones.
Yeah, I was going to also mention realtors and agents that know how to digitally sell are going to thrive. Like, for instance, think about a workflow to where you can post a video on social media, you know, but that's where the attention is, right? I do a walkthrough, very highly engaging, and I say, go to my link in my bio. That video goes viral. They go into that link and it's a path tour. And they're actually just walking through the property and talking to my digital twin in the digital twin of the building. And they're getting all the information, asking all the questions. And now I, as an agent, can just go through my path listings or through my path contacts that I've just gotten because of this viral video and filter to the people who are most interested and call them, right? That flow is just more like for an agent, right? Because right now the equivalent or right now the current way of doing things is like you might go into their bio, sure. You might see the listing page, sure. You might call them and they might not answer. Or you might sort of fill in the form, possibly. But who imagine it's 1,000 people. When are you gonna get to, you know, 999, you know? And how do you know that 1% of those are not, or 99% of those are not just like, you know, people who are not qualified to buy? So, yeah, just a different way of thinking about it.
I could imagine like the Instagram have like a link of multiple properties and people can just browse through the properties they are
Mhm,
interested in and that data goes back to them that okay, out of right
mhm,
now if they have 20 properties, they have no idea if a user browsed all of them or few.
mhm,
Here they could have like okay, out of 20 they are only interested in three properties.
mhm,
Okay, I can call back them with this context, like what about those properties?
mhm. Yeah. No, that's so spot on. And you know, like this might be a little far fetched, but like I think because of bureaucracy of like these big players of like Zillow, Homes.com, you know, Redfin, Realtor.com, all those, and then you know that sort of when that happens, sometimes the collaborations don't really run seamlessly. Like for instance, like why would a Zillow want to integrate with Instagram, right? Even though in our minds it's like duh, right? Like have the listings right there, like duh, to where you can track more of the life cycle of the sale. But that can't happen unless if these things are decentralized. And that's actually what's happening now with Compass and some of these bigger companies. They are, or some of these uprising brokerages and companies, they want to decentralize listings to where you don't have to go through the MLS or go through NAR to list your property anymore. You can list it yourself. So that changes everything, right? And then now it's going to be more of an emphasis on experience. Like, how do I feel seeing your property the first time? Did I see everything I needed? Did I get all the questions answered?
The user experience will be big differentiator.
Exactly. Exactly.
Any tips from like the go-to-market strategies you tried, what worked, what didn't?
So when we first started, we did a lot of ads. I have a lot of like growth hacker friends, and they're very smart, very, very smart. And it worked for us. So we would do a lot of ads. We send them to a landing page or we send them to a meeting thing and they would book the meeting and we talk to them. So we did that for years and then referrals started to roll in. So we cut back on the ad strategy and just like focused on relationships. And that's worked very, very well for us. We still run ads. It's a lot of retargeting ads. But the thing I would say is like creating a big list of like the people that you want to serve, the people that, you want to work with, and then aggressively finding out where they are and, figuring out how to get in front of them. When you're a little more established, I think the authority makes the most, like, it's the best bang for the buck because like they're looking for, at that level, they're looking for experts. Like they're looking for people who eat, sleep, breathe, like dream this stuff. And, they want to hear you talk about what you're doing, right? If you're truly a visionary, if you like, right, they want to hear that. They want to see that you're doing it. They want to see that who you've done it for. And, so going to conferences, speaking, doing all that stuff is a great go-to-market strategy, especially if you are able to capture those people and build those relationships while you're there. So you speak, you talk about your thing, and then you build a relationship with them at the same time because you're finding out what they're wanting and what they're needing as well because they're at that conference, obviously. So that's been how things have evolved for us in terms of go to market for the past, I'd say 5 or 6 years. And obviously leveraging AI as much as you can, but like keeping it personalized is like huge.
Got it. Before we wrap up the interview, I have a quick rapid fire round. You have less than 10
Yeah.
seconds to answer. You gotta keep super brief.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite architect,
David Ajay.
your favorite restaurant,
That's Pier 44.
any city or country which is in your travel bucket list,
Same parts.
three words your best friend would describe you as,
Stubborn, smart, and kind.
any book or movie which made a big impact in your life.
Definitely the Bible first. Greatest salesman in the world comes at a very close second. Changed my life. Movies, I really like Will Ferrell. So Anchorman 1 and 2 is like that's my favorites.
Nate, anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you'd like to end on a closing note?
No, this is great. Like I've loved our conversation and yeah, just, inspiring anyone who's thinking about doing anything when it comes to entrepreneurship, just start today. The best time to start is today. And if you feel that if you have the feeling that you are the person that you want to become first, then everything else will sort of work itself out.
Amazing. That's a great note. It is accessible on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to him if you want any further advice or want to collaborate with Nate.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, man.